Seester.
Hi, Seesters.
Welcome to RealmTalk. I am Aaliyah.
And I'm Geneva. And welcome to your weekly ride into the fantasy realms of entertainment. So excited to be here again. Sorry it
Woo!
took us so long. We had some technical difficulties, all that good stuff, but we're back.
We are back and we will be back weekly, pending no other random stuff, but we should be here every single week moving forward. Thank you for joining us for our intro episode. And now we are ready to get started on our chapter by chapter discussion of Fourth Wing. But first, let's just give a little bit about what's been going on. So, Geneva, what have you been reading? Since this is
I've
a
been reading
fantasy
Smut,
podcast.
but I have been reading Smut. So I'm currently reading The Perfect Fit by Sadie Kincaid, and I'm loving it. It's MMMF. She's living her best life, and you had to count.
Well, all right.
She's living
I
her
had
best
to think
life.
about that for a second, and good
But
for her.
the next
Good for her.
fantasy novel I'm thinking about picking up is probably going to be Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I've been seeing a lot of good things about
Okay.
that one, and it just seems interesting to me. It's a romantasy, and I love romantasy, so I'm probably going to pick that one up next.
Add it to the list, please, so that I
I
can
will.
look into it as well. And what are you writing? Because my sister is a writer, so we'll never not hold her accountable for her gifts.
So I'm actually currently working on the organization of a urban fantasy novel series that I am working on. I'm really excited about it. The hard part is finding the time. So between work and school and podcast and gym and momming and wifing, I'm just like, I need to sit down and find time to write this. But then when I do have time, I'm like, I just want to not do anything. So yeah, it's kind of like, but I'm working on it.
Yeah. You'll get there. It takes time. Art takes time. What do they say in Toy Story? You can't rush art. There you go. I am currently reading. I have had a lot of time off over the last couple of weeks, and so I have been reading a lot. So I decided after I reread Fourth Wing for the third or fourth time, the whole series, I was just like, okay, I need to find something else. So I decided to pick up ACOTAR because everyone's just, I mean, they just say, if you like this, or ACOTAR is the original or the OG or whatever. So I am 3 books into the series. I'm almost done with the third book. It's a good series. I don't know if it has the hype that everyone talks about it being. The first book was really, really slow for 75% of the book up until like the last 25%. Then it got like interesting. I read it more like then as just like a fantasy romance novel. And I think I tend to like more action, which is why Fourth Wing kind of dragged me in. But I was like, well, I wouldn't keep giving it a chance. So I read the second book, and the second book was better. Didn't definitely had a bit more action and things like that. And the third book is probably the best one. I've finally reached a point where I like, oh, I can't put this down type of territory because I'm invested in the characters. There's 5 books in the series. There's hardly any diversity in the book. But at this point, I'm just finishing it to finish it. I'm not a quitter. I'll get through it and give my final rating. Right now, it's a 5 out of 10.
Dad didn't raise
But
quitters.
yes, exactly. But I did pick up quite a few novels that I added to the list. I added Promise and Fire by Jasmine Walt, which I'm excited to read. It's about dragons and fae and spicy scenes and right up my alley of what I like to read. I got this book by Ali Shante called Living Legend, which I think you will like because it's got angels and demons and Lilith and all of that fun stuff along with some smut. I haven't started it yet, but I want to get through ACOTAR. It's really hard for me to read multiple series at the same time because I've got, especially when they have like fairies and dragons and it's all like the same, like it's just it'll get hard
Oh,
for me to like
I can juggle like multiple books easy because of my ADHD brain. So like I'm able to like separate it still. And if I get like to one
mm,
point in one book, I'll put that book down because I got bored from reading it. Not that I'm bored with the story, but I just got bored reading it, if that makes sense. And I'll pick up another
yeah.
book and I'll read a little bit into that one, and I'll pick up another one, read a little bit, and I can keep the stories aligned. It's really weird.
Wow. Superhero powers because I cannot. I need to finish and then move on and close before I start another series. So these are all going to take me a while to get through. And then my final one is Zodiac Academy that my friend Jenny recommended to me. She's starting it. This is like 12 different books. So I don't know if I'm going to start this one soon just because it's just like it's a big commitment. And seeing as how I read, I don't like 12 books is going to take me like 2 months or so. So I have a lot of books. I'm very excited. I created a list of different authors that I'm excited to read. So once I finish ACOTAR, I can start on the others. But yeah. And some other exciting fantasy news. House of the Dragon premiere date moved up to June, which is
Oh, I didn't even know that. Oh my
what? Am I
gosh.
breaking news?
You're breaking news because I did not know that. I've been in the dark. I've been like, okay, well, now I really have to go ahead and rewatch the first season again so I could be like up to
Mm-hmm.
speed on everything that's going on. So, yeah.
Yes. Yes. I think it was saying that it was going to premiere in August and they've
Yeah.
now bumped it up to June and that came out either today or yesterday. So
Okay.
so I'm so pumped, super excited about that. And then finally, like what are you watching, Seester? Are you
Um,
watching anything fantasy related?
Not really. I am watching some anime. I'm watching Ninja Kamui on HBO or Max, what the fuck is going by now. I can't keep up. Um,
Whatever.
it's really good. It's a great story. It's gory. It's violent, and I love it. It's fantastic. So just
Oh,
ninjas
I love that.
being ninjas. He's getting revenge for his family, and I'm like, yes, get the revenge.
Yes.
But nothing really fantasy related. I'm usually when I watch fantasy shows, I usually do like the big popular shows like Game of Thrones when that was out and things like that. I typically like in my spare time, I like to watch documentaries. I love a good documentary. So like I'll watch
Yes.
documentaries all day if somebody lets me. But
Yes.
I am trying to look into something else to watch, but again, it's like time.
Time. Yeah. You're the wife with the kids, and I'm the. Well, I'm not. I will not be single soon because I'm getting married, but no kids and just a dog, so I do have a bit more time on my hands. Um. So yes, I started to pick back up on Witcher. I don't know if you watched
Yeah,
season
I watched The
one of
Witcher.
Witcher. I really
Which
loved
season?
Witcher season one. I watched
Oh,
season
season
one
one
a
was
long time
amazing.
ago. And
Yeah.
then I watched season two and I wound up dropping off like mid season. I just got disinterested. Um, and so I picked it back up last week and watched season three. And I started to get again disinterested. Um, so I'm going to keep trying. I'm not sure why I'm losing interest because it has all the things that I like. There's like a little bit of like death and fantasy and monsters and a really hot Henry Cavill and slight romance, like protection. Like it's everything that I like. It's dark, but I don't know why it's not catching me like the first season. The first season was so good to me.
First season was so good.
So
And I played the games. So like I played the games, and so like I was so excited when they announced that they were making a Witcher TV show. I was like, yes. I was like, please don't make it into a movie. And I was like, okay, good, they're doing a show. So that means they'll be able to actually do it correctly. But then there were things that they were
yeah,
doing that was different that I can't think of off the top of my head. And then, Henry Cavill left because of creative differences because he's a big fan of the books.
Yeah.
and which I would actually like to read the books. Actually, I've never gotten around to reading the books that The Witcher is based off of. So
Mm,
that could be something that we add to our repertoire maybe in the future.
yeah, for sure.
But
Because
I
I'm
love
not
the
playing the
world.
video
I love the
game.
lore. You know, you're not playing the video game.
I didn't know if you caught that.
I did. I heard it.
If it's not
Because I'm not
Kingdom
playing the
Hearts,
game.
I'm not playing it. But yeah, that's a good idea. We should definitely add that to our list. We have like a running Google doc list of all the books and different things that we want to pick up on and read and stuff. All of the books that I listed are, of course, on that list, but I'd love for you to add Witcher to that. I didn't know that they had a series. I thought it was just a video game. So,
No, the video game was based off the books.
ah, smart. So everything comes from literature.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I watched. This is more sci-fi than fantasy, but I watched Dune last week,
Dune put me to
Friday.
sleep.
Dune was so good,
It
and
put me to sleep.
I don't know what's wrong with you because that I mean, okay,
I
to be
couldn't. I was like,
fair,
"What is happening?" I couldn't keep up. I was like, I didn't know. I can't. I couldn't tell you the plot of Dune if you put a gun to my head. I'd be like, I don't know. I don't know what the plot is.
the I will say that the first one was a bit slower, and like I have heard that same sentiment that it was like hard to like complete and to finish. I think if you're a real lover of like cinema, that Dune 1 will be something that like you'll really enjoy.
Says
And
the
as a person,
actor.
yes, as a person who's the actor, loves cinema and all of those things, like it spoke to everything that I enjoy. Dune 2 was like perfect because it had everything. It was way more interesting. It was way more like battles and all those things. And I'm a cinematography like obsessor. And there was moments I'm just looking at the screen and I'm just like, look at this shot. Like, how did they get this shot? This is so insane. Like I do that with Game of Thrones all the time where I'm just like, wow. Like, do you remember
Oh,
that
Battle of the
scene when
Bastards.
yes, like
Battle of the
you could just
Bastards. The
you could
entire episode
picture
was just cinematography perfection.
it's insane, just perfect, just so good, so good. And Game of Thrones gave me life with those shots, like the shot with John, pulling his sword out
Pulling
in
his
that
sword
scene
out
in the
and
battle,
ready to die, and the
just
Legion coming
ready.
towards him, ready, and you can see the dirt kicking up from the horses, and
Ah,
it was. Now I want to watch it again.
chef's kiss, chef's kiss.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
yes, yes. So Dune 2 really had some beautiful, just insane shots. Timothy Chalamet did an amazing job. Everyone did a great job. And so it was a really good movie. I'm actually going to watch it again because I want to see it in IMAX. I didn't see it in IMAX, so I want to watch it in IMAX. So, but yeah, that is what we're reading, what we're watching, what we got going on. So we can go ahead and get started if you're ready, sister.
I'm ready. I'm excited.
Okay. Quiet across the realm. We now begin our chapter 1 through 5 discussion of Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This will contain spoilers for Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. If you have not read both of those books, you should stop, go read them, and then come back and listen. All right, let's get going. All right, so chapter 1. Chapter 1 is an insanely loaded chapter. So, for everyone, just to know, we're going to have a different discussion leader for each episode. I will be the discussion leader for this episode, and my sister will be the discussion leader for next episode. So if I'm talking just a little bit more this episode, that will be the reason why. But we just want to make sure one of us is keeping us on track. Otherwise, this episode will be 3 hours long. So, all right. So chapter 1, so much going on. Violet Sorengale is preparing to head to Basgaith War College. I looked up the word Basgaith, and it's Scottish Gaelic, and we'll find a lot of words in here. Geneva, this will be your fun thing to do. But Basgaith means death wing, which I thought was interesting, which is pretty smart for a like Dragon War College to be called the Death Wing.
Death Wing.
So she's heading off to college. You start college when you're 20 years old. Her sister Mira is 26 years old. She heads in and she tries to stop her mother, whose name is Lilith Sorrengail, from making this happen because Violet was supposed to enter the scribe quadrant, not the writer quadrant. And so, for just a recap, there are 4 quadrants at Basgace War College. There's the healer quadrant, which that's pretty self-explanatory, a healer. Infantry, which is like, think of like soldiers, army, first front on the ground, very like army nature. You have the
They're
riders
there to
quadrant,
die.
which is all, yes, prepare to die. Exactly. The riders quadrant, which is a very elite portion of the war college, and they are the dragon riders. And then you have the scribe quadrant, which is for all of the writers, or not the writers, they're like, what would
They're
you
like the
call the
history
scribes?
keepers. They're the history
Perfect.
keepers.
Thank you.
They are
Yes.
they keep track of living history as it happens.
Yes. And you'll see throughout the book that they'll assign certain scribes to certain uh, missions or things that they're doing, and they don't do anything. They don't talk. They're quiet. They sit there and they record the information as it happens, which we'll get into why that's a problem. So those are the 4 quadrants, and Mira, Violet's older sister, and Lilith are having a shouting match about Lilith forcing Violet to go into the writer's quadrant. Mira kind of ends the discussion with a low blow about Brennan, and that's their older brother to Lilith. And she basically says,
Mm-hmm.
you are just trying to kill off like another child, or you're trying to bury another child. And I wanted to see what you thought about Mira saying that to her mother, and what, because this is the end of the discussion. Mira leaves after this, and
Yeah.
she doesn't speak to her mother anymore.
I
But what do you
feel
think
I
is
feel
going
like
through?
I feel like upon my first read through of the book, I was like, "Oh, her mom's a bitch." Like, like, like
Mm-hmm.
that was like my first thought. But then when I took a step back and actually was like, as a mother, you know your children's
Mm-hmm.
limitations. And
Mm-hmm.
it's oftentimes, like we discussed this, like it's oftentimes your job as a mother to push your kids out of the nest. And while Violet would
Yeah.
have thrived in the in the scribe quadrant, no doubt, I feel like her mother knew that she was capable of more. Did she go about it the right way? Probably not. Most parents don't. So, but I do feel that that was like Mira stabbing Lilith and like twisting the knife to remind her that she's failed as
Yeah.
a mother already and she's going to fail again.
Yeah. Let's give a little history about Brennan. Brennan is their older brother. He was, as Violet calls him, the favorite child. Um, and their father, we don't have a name for him, so we're going to call him Papa Sorrengail. His name is never revealed. But Papa Sorrengail, he winds up dying of a heart attack shortly after Brennan's death. Brennan died in the Tirish Rebellion along with his dragon, and his death was heartbreaking to their father, and he died 2 years prior to the book starting. So I think it's important to understand how grief affects people in different ways.
Especially
Um,
in this world because they are to burn the belongings of those who
mm,
have passed. So you don't have
mm-hmm,
anything left behind to remind you of this person. They're literally they're literally only in your memories. And that's it.
yeah,
And so I
it.
can't imagine what it's like to grieve that way. I mean, I'm sure like in the book is part of their culture, so it's like ingrained in them, but I'm sure like if I could just sneak this necklace or if I could just
Mm-hmm,
keep this book or keep this sock or whatever that they had or this shirt that smells like them still, and just keep it as a
Yeah.
memory, but you're supposed to burn everything in an offering
Yeah.
to Malik.
Yeah.
So yeah, I found that very interesting.
Yes. And Malik is their death god. He's the god of death. We'll get into the gods as we start to learn more about them, but this is the first chapter that we learn about the god of death. And if, as my sister said, if someone dies, you are supposed to condemn everything that they have owned to Malik. It no longer belongs to you, it belongs to the death god. So you have to burn everything. And Malik is not happy if you keep something that is his. So let's continue our discussion. So after Lilith dismisses Violet and saying, like, you have to go to this college. I'm not saying no. And to watch out for enemies because her last name is not going to do her any favors. Violet meets with Mira, and Mira's job at this point, once she realizes she can't get through to her mother, is to help her sister and stay alive. So she helps her braid her hair. Violet refuses to cut her hair. That's the thing that most women do when they go into the Rider's Quadrant. And she gives her a dragon scale vest from her dragon, Tinine. I also looked this word up. It's a Scottish Gaelic for fire. So, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. And she tells her that she is the most observant and she's very smart. Mira tells Violet
I
that and
think
to
it's
use that
Gaelic.
against her advantage. Gaelic?
I think it's Gaelic.
Could be
I
Gaelic
think
or
Scottish is Gaelic and
Gaelic.
Irish is Gaelic.
I will have to do my
I don't want the
research for
internet coming to
sure.
tear us to pieces because we used the wrong G. It's not intentional, we promise. We did try to do some research, but it's kind of hard to look at something and figure out how it's pronounced.
Yeah, especially when they don't put the phonic alphabet on a lot of things. Like, it makes it really difficult. Okay, so Mira tells her to find Dane, who is their childhood friend, and she says to stay away from Zayden Riorson. And they start to notice some of these separatist kids. So Zayden is the son of the man who started the Tirish Rebellion. If you remember what I just said, that was the man who killed her older brother. He was captured by Lilith and then killed. And so that's who Zayden is, the son of the great betrayer, Ben Riorson. So again, a lot going on in this chapter. They're in line. She meets Dylan and Rhiannon, and we're going to call her Rhi. Some people say Rhiannon, but I think Rhiannon, but whatever pronunciation you prefer. She notices that Rhi has slippery or slick shoes, which is something Mira told her about when she was giving her different different tips on how to cross a parapet. And they switch shoes. And as they walk up to cross the parapet, she meets Zayden. Dun, 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 dun.
Fucking hot.
Fucking hot. Daddy X, Zayden, all of those things. Do you want to give the description on Zayden, sister, from the book?
Sure. Zayden is tall, dark, handsome, black hair, jet black hair, might I add. When I say tall, I'm talking about, what did she say? He has to be over 6'4", so he's at least like 6'5".
Yeah, he's 6'4".
And that's a lot of man.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of man.
A whole lot of man.
And so basically when, I think what happens, so her name is called, or Zayden's name is called, and then her name is called afterwards, and Zayden's like Sorengale, and like their altercation begins there. Basically, it's like a stare down, and words are exchanged.
Yes. And you can tell there's, like, for her, there's an immediate attraction to Zayden. He's described as having like warm, tawny skin, and he said gold eyes, and she's just like, he's just the most exquisite thing that she's ever seen. However, he's looking at her like he wants to fucking kill her. I did want to touch on, well, we'll get into some touch points in a second, but they, like you said, they exchanged some tense words, and she asked if he's going to kill her, and just as Dylan, the guy that she just talked to, who was excited
It
about
was so
crossing and
sweet.
doing it for his family. And he was so excited to be
There's a
dreaming about going
fiance
into the writer's,
waiting for
a
him.
fiance waiting for him. He falls off the parapet and dies. So that's what we're headed into. That's the literally the end of the chapter 1. That it is not easy to cross the parapet. Not to mention it's raining, courtesy of her mother, who is in charge of her signet is controlling storms. So, um, yeah. So that's chapter 1. I wanted to get into some touch points, sister.
I never
Um,
considered that it was Lilith that was controlling the weather. I completely forgot about that. She did that on purpose.
really? I
I never
always thought that
considered
she
it.
did. She's such a fucking bitch.
Like I never considered that until literally just now. A light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, "That bitch."
Yeah, bitch. Like, not going to make it easy for her daughter ever, for any of her children. It's always going to be a fight to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so let's talk about Lilith. I put some notes in the touch points, but
Yeah,
there's a couple of things in there from the chapter. She looks at Violet. Violet always feels like scrutinized under her mother, like she's less than. And her mother
she looks at
says
her like she's
that,
broken.
yeah, disappointed. Disappointed. And it says that, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't. I'm done.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something. Um,
Mm-mm.
it says that the fever that nearly killed Lilith when she was pregnant with Violet, she maybe blames herself for the way Violet is. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the differences that are in her body. She is described as being very pale. She has hazel eyes with a little hint of blue. And she says, pale eyes, pale hair, just basically calling her just like the lower end of the spectrum, saying that the fever took all of the coloring. And she says, along with your strength, which is such a low blow to say to your kid as they're getting ready to go into a war college.
Possibly die.
Yeah. Yeah. Where's the motivation, mom? Damn.
I know.
But there's something that Lilith says that I'd like to discuss. Lilith says, because Mira is pissed, and she says, Mira, Violet deals with more pain before lunch than you do in an entire week. If any of my children is capable of surviving the writer's quadrant, it's her. Does she believe in her?
Yes, wholeheartedly. I think she feels that in a way Violet may have been coddled because of her condition by her father especially. And
Mm.
while she doesn't have a problem with scribes or anything like that, she does feel that maybe Violet wasn't reaching her peak physical condition because of the way she was coddled because of her condition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely possible. I think I think Lilith is a very layered character. Um, I think she has a lot of expectations and unrealistic expectations for her children. And as a child that has differences compared to her older sister, who is, just powerful, a war hero, just an overall badass. And then you have a brother who both of them have said was the favorite, the most loved, and went to war and was really skilled and died. Like, where do you fit in? We see that in a lot of different, television shows like The Heir and the Spare, or the least loved child. Like, how do we create space for ourselves? And so it's another trope that you see a lot.
Mhm.
The weaker, quote unquote, younger sibling, and how they've come to be the strongest of them all. But I think it's interesting, and I like the way that they've crafted Lilith. It's very easy to hate her, but you have to find the little lines of like where she's actually saying things that she believes in her, even though she tells her
Yeah.
the fever took all her strength. But then in the next line says, "You can do this."
Yeah, I feel like Lilith is just blunt with no filter, which often can make someone be perceived as an asshole, and oftentimes they are.
Mhm.
but I feel like
Mm-hmm.
Lilith wouldn't put Violet through anything that she felt that she couldn't handle. Because as a
Mm-hmm.
mother and as a parent, it's your job to push your children further than they feel they can go themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, I think the next touch point I wanted to talk about was Mira when she's helping Violet prepare. She's like braiding her hair. She gave her the vest. She's telling her all the different tips and tricks on how to cross the parapet, and how to control your balance. And as she recognizes that you're only allowed to carry one pack with you across the parapet, it's a backpack with your stuff, all of your belongings, and she's like, this shit is too fucking heavy. We need to get rid of this shit. And
Mm-hmm.
she starts throwing out all of Violet's books. Violet is a scribe at heart, so she, wants to keep all of her books, and she throws out her favorite book from her rucksack. And it happens to be the first time that we hear about Venin and
And then
Wyvern, like
Wyvern.
chapter
Yeah.
one.
Chapter 1.
um,
Foreshadowing.
foreshadowing alert. We need like an alert, foreshadowing. So I when I was doing my reread, I was like, damn, chapter one, we got like the villain here, like in the beginning of these fairy tale stories that her dad used to read to her. So I just thought that was very interesting and something to touch on. So yeah, that's chapter one. All right, so let's move on to chapter two. We are going to go ahead and read what would you call the top of the chapter blurb here? Just like a chapter
Literally a
blurb
blurb.
or chapter
A chapter
excerpt or
blurb?
something?
I would call it a chapter
Yeah, we're
blurb.
going to call it a blurb. Each of the chapters have these little blurbs, and we love a little chapter blurb. So I'll let Geneva go ahead and read that.
There is a misconception that it's kill or be killed in the Writers' Quadrant. Writers as a whole aren't out to assassinate other cadets. Unless there's a shortage of dragons that year, or a cadet is a liability to their wing. Then things may get interesting. You want me to read the name too? Oh, sorry. Major Afrendra's Guide to the Writer's Quadrant, unauthorized edition.
Yes. So these little blurbs all give like hints of what's to come in this chapter, excuse me. So it's basically saying you can't kill somebody without reason or if you think they're weak. So we're about to get into that reason why. Chapter two
Foreshadowing.
starts with the words foreshadowing. Chapter two starts with the words I will not die today. So Violet heads out on the parapet after She remembers everything that Mira told her and starts to walk. There's an asshole candidate that was behind her that was talking shit about people falling, and we learn that is none other than Jack fucking Barlow. And that is what he will be called throughout this chapter by chapter discussion. That exact name, JFB. He's leering insults. He's calling people names. He's making people scared. He's telling them to go faster. He's practically running across the parapet, which is, it's raining. He just thinks that he's going to be that guy. And he takes what my sister just read very seriously, getting rid of weaknesses and things to harm the Rider's Quadrant. As she's going across the parapet, Violet's coping mechanism for when she is anxious or anxiety is to recite history, or just to recite facts and knowledge. So I'm sure as you all are reading this, these were really great little blurbs and a really cool way that the author put in for us to learn about the world and to learn
Mm-hmm.
about the continent itself. So we
Yeah.
just get to learn about the different provinces and where they are and a little bit of their history as she's kind of talking about that. So I thought that was really cool and smooth in there for the author to throw that in there. So as she's reciting, JFB pushes someone off the parapet that's behind Violet. And she's really nervous. And I think at some point Zayden tells her to hurry up or you might want to move it along because the fucking bull of JFB is coming. So she makes it across, luckily for her. And as she jumps off, Jack fucking Barlow is racing behind her to kill her. and she launches off and puts her dagger up into his balls as she's laying on the ground. So she literally has him by the balls at
Had
the
him
end of
by
this
the
chapter.
balls. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So this was a short chapter, but it was mostly about her crossing the parapet. And I think the main idea was two things: learning the history of the provinces and all of those little nice little fun facts that she was reciting across, and Jack fucking Barlow. Um, so I wanted to talk about specifically JFB and what the fuck is his problem? Like, what are his motivations? Like, what are we thinking here? What are you thinking?
I think that Jack fucking Barlow, is one of those people that despises weakness for a reason that we are not shown in the books. It could be his childhood, it could be his upbringing, it could be whatever. But he, for some reason, has ingrained in him that we do not tolerate weakness in any form. And
Mm,
we see that throughout both books with his behavior, as he tends to go for the weakest links, so to speak, in an attempt
mm-hmm,
to snuff them out because he feels like he's doing them a favor. Like he feels like he's doing them a service by killing them.
mm-hmm,
It's almost like he's a martyr. At least he
mm-hmm,
feels he is.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
yeah, that's how I feel. But like we don't get any insight into JFB's background or anything like that. It's just we just know him as this raging asshole, this raging
yeah.
murderous asshole throughout the books.
From the moment we see him or hear him, she literally hears him as some asshole behind me. Like we are already feeling this amount of anger, and it just makes me think, like, what is his family history? What makes a person have these types of motivations where they just hate weakness so much? Was his mother weak? Was his father abusive? Was he abused? Was he obsessed, or was he not abused, but was he obsessed with entering the writer's quadrant? I mean, you can see that he's like really excited to be here. This is what he also has dreamed of, and he wants to prove himself and be powerful. Is he reading this book word for word? You have to snuff out the weaknesses. Was he like this in school? Was he always thinking, if I want to be a writer, I have to be strong and I have to snuff out anything that is weak? And we'll get more into how this theme of hating weakness continues with him. But I just do think it's very interesting to point out, like, what motivation someone could have where they just enter in with so much anger and hate and despise for someone that they don't know.
It's really interesting. I do like that his character seems more complex than what he actually is. But we get him back, but we pretty much get Jack fucking Barlow at face value for the
Yeah,
most part.
yeah, he doesn't really deviate
He
too
doesn't
much from
have too
being a
much
dick.
depth to him.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So we meet our first villain, chapter 2.
Or is it the second
um
villain?
uh, the second villain, yes, was Zayden. Yeah, Zayden's supposed to stay away from Daddy X. Okay, so we can move on to chapter 3.
Blue dragons descend from the extraordinary Gormphalius line. Known for their formidable size, they are the most ruthless, especially in the case of the rare blue daggertail, whose knife-like spikes at the tip of their tail can disembowel an enemy with one flick. Colonel Kaori's Field Guide to Dragonkind.
Chapter 3, we about to see some dragons, y'all. So, let's get into it. So, chapter 3 immediately starts off with her still having Jack Barlow by the balls, and she quotes the Codex saying, "You can't kill riders." Um, and so the two already cadets that are there at the end of the parapet basically tell Jack that that she's correct. You cannot kill her, a fellow cadet. So she runs into Ree, and they're just so happy that they made it and that they're alive. At the same time, Dane, who her sister Mira told her to find, sees her, and he is fucking shocked to see her there. Um, he tells Ree immediately to go find a redhead with a roll and tell her Dane Atos said to put her and Violet in his squad. He's a squad leader. and he takes Violet to his room to help her wrap her legs and her joints. So they are childhood friends. He knows very well how Violet's body works and some of the differences that she has in her joints. Violet has a disability that her joints dislocate very easier than others, and the ligaments can. She's almost like a double jointed type of situation, but it's very painful, or it can be painful. Um, and the author also has this same exact disability. Um, so he basically tells her that he is absolutely terrified for her. He's pissed at Lilith, her mom, for putting her in here, and he's scared. Like, he's scared. This is his best friend. She calls him his best friend. Um, so they head back. She finds Ree. He acts like he doesn't know her because he doesn't want to add that connection between them and the other cadets. Both her and Ree are put into his squad. But then Zayden um, moves them into his wing. He is a wing leader. So there's wing leaders and squad leaders, and he is over fourth wing. So the wing leader for each of the wings, and then squad leaders for each of the squads, and section leaders for each of the sections. There's section leaders, wing leaders, section leaders, and squad leaders. Dana's the second year, and he's a squad leader. You can become a section leader as a third year, and a wing leader as a third year. And a second year, you become a squad leader. So Dane's a wing leader. He moves Dane's squad into his wing, presumably to essentially kill Violet, because now he's under her control. She has to listen to whatever he says. He's like the word of God, essentially. Whatever he says goes. He controls everything. Zayden gives his speech, and he is very commanding in his presence, which Violet notes is exactly like his father. His father was known to have great speech, being able to get people to listen to him, commanding presence. And Zayden is said to have,
Rally the
yeah,
troops.
exactly. Zayden is said to have a commanding presence. Um, and she notices a Navy dragon as Zayden is talking about what it means to be in the Rider Squadron, to be a part of this elite squad, to be a part of greatness, essentially. And all of the dragons come in and land, and they're totally different, beautiful colors. And there's one specifically blue navy dragon dagger tail that we were talked about at the start of this book with that little blurb. And that dragon looks directly at Violet. You are not supposed to look dragons in the eye. They don't like being looked at, especially not by people by their riders, but they exchange a moment. And that is where the chapter ends. So some touch points that I'd like to talk about. One of the things is the dragon colors. So Seester, if you'd like to talk about the different dragon colors that we are going to be seeing in this book, I think that'd be awesome.
So we've got blue dragons, obviously. Um, we've got green dragons. We've got brown dragons. Orange dragons?
Yes, it's
Is it
orange.
orange
We
or
have red
red?
dragons too.
Is it orange?
Yeah.
Is it orange?
Mm-hmm.
Orange and red, right? Okay, orange and red. And the most rare are the black scale
Yep.
dragons.
So we have red, green, brown, orange, blue, and then black. And those are the six dragon types and colors. Um, I think it's noted that Mira's dragon is green, and her mother's dragon is brown, and her brother's dragon was orange. And the blue dragon that we saw is the only blue dragon out of them all. Reds are pretty common, same with greens, but the blues and the blacks are very rare. So I'm really excited to get more into the dragons as we go through. The next thing that I want to talk about is Dane. Um, what do you think about him in this chapter, and what do you think are his true feelings for Violet?
I think he's taken on the role as like an overprotective potential intimate partner. And I feel like he cares for Violet very much. I mean, they grew up together. And sometimes when you grow up with someone of the opposite sex, sometimes you do develop feelings for them because you know them very well. You know them inside and out. And I think that, to his credit, he just, he was, in his mind, he was just doing what he could to protect her and to
Mm-hmm.
save her life, because he's seen so
Mm-hmm.
much death in the writer's quadrant, and he can't live with himself if Violet makes it onto the death.
Yes, let's start chapter 4.
The sparring ring is where riders are made or broken. After all, no respectable dragon would choose a rider who cannot defend themselves, and no respectable cadet would allow such a threat to the wing to continue training. Major Afrendra's Guide to the Rider's Quadrant, Unauthorized Edition.
We love an authorized edition. So chapter 4 starts out with the death roll. They go out to the flight field and they pretty much listen to everyone who died the previous day. This is like a big funeral and the only time that they will acknowledge death in this world. And they are taught to not cry and to be stoic when it comes to death, because you face it every day. It's like this college is preparing you to see death at all times. So Dane tells the squad what to expect that day. They're going to have class, and then they're going to end it at the sparring gym. So we get to meet some of our faves, other characters in this chapter. So one of the first people we meet is Sawyer, and Sawyer is a repeat first year, which I think is interesting. So if you don't bond with a dragon, you have to redo the first year again. What the hell would you do if you didn't bond with a dragon first year? Would you repeat?
I mean, I wouldn't really have much of a choice other than die. So I guess, like, I would just I would just try again.
I know, it's like it's so defeating, I think. And then
That
I
is so
think I don't
fun to
know if it
try again.
yeah, like I guess you just have to keep trying, and it's like, especially if this is your dream and like making
Mhm.
it through the odds and like surviving, and then like you have to do it all over again. Like it gives you, I guess, a bit of an advantage because you know what to respect. But this is one college I would not want to do for 4 years. Get me the fuck out.
Yeah, get me out of here.
So Sawyer is described as like freckled, sandy hair, and very tall. I'm
Everybody
assuming
is
over 6 feet.
tall.
All the, it's just like where are these all these
Where are
tall
all these
ass
tall
men?
men? Where are all these tall men at? Ain't nobody short. Ain't no short men.
Yeah, where's the
What are they
five
feeding
nines?
them? What are they feeding them? Like,
Exactly. My personal fave of the entire series, my favorite character, Riddick. He is the comedic relief. He is just so funny. Like I cannot wait to we get to later chapters and we just get to see his humor. I just love him, and he just brings just such energy to the series. He is described as having brown skin with dark brown floppy hair, and he is known to be a smartass. I think as we see him, as she learns his name is just smartass in the books. So um, and then they head out. Dane starts to express concerns to Violet. Mind you, he's been acting like he doesn't know her, but like, in a, Violet is impressed by how much he acts like he doesn't know her. But there's like a mild care flirtation at this conversation. When they were in his room, there was definitely some heavy petting, as you would call it.
yeah,
Uh,
innuendo.
Yes. Like I think Violet thought about like climbing him like a tree or something. She was
Mhm.
thinking about they had some serious flirting. So she's always kind of had a thing for Dane, and she's looking at him like this might be the time. But he is her superior and her squad leader, so she has to kind of contain it. But he pulls her to the side and he's worried again about her staying in the rider's quadrant, trying to figure out a way to get her out. She's telling him, like, even if we get out, my mom will find out and send me right back. There's nothing that you can do. They talk about Zayden again and him moving her into underneath his wing. Dane doesn't know why, but he is concerned, and he's like, watch out for him. He will kill you at any chance because of what your mother did to his father. They talk about his dragon, and he says how vicious it is. His dragon is even afraid of Zayden's dragon. And then we move on to signets. And so this is something that I've been excited to talk about is the different signets. So Dane reveals that his signet is he can read recent memories, and it's a classified signet. So that basically means that it's not, you're not wearing it on your sleeve to people to tell
Mm-hmm.
what you can do. Um, and so I want you to touch on your thought about signets because I think it's really great, Geneva. But I just wanted to go through the signets that we know of really quickly. So Dane can read recent memories.
Mm-hmm.
Lilith has the power of controlling storms, and
Mm-hmm.
Melgren has the power to see battles. Those are the three that we get from this chapter. And she starts to wonder about other people's
Which is a
signets.
random power when you really think about it.
It is very, very random to be able to outsee the
The
outcome
outcome
of a
in
battle
battles.
if you
But
win or you lose.
is
So
it only limited to battles, or can he actually see the future, or does he just decide to just focus on battles?
it's a good that's a good if we start to think about the future chapters, like what he's able to see and not see, I think it might be like just premonition types of situations that he's
Mm-hmm.
honed and
Like
focused on
what if
battles.
scenarios?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you think about the signets in general and this type of magic? I wanted you to touch on that.
Um,
You had a really good thought.
I like it because, most fantasy novels do have a magic system, and they do tend to focus on spells and potions and plants and, your usual repertoire of magical things. So I
Yeah.
think the signets is a nice change. Granted,
Mm-hmm.
something like signets could have been done before in other books, and I honestly wouldn't know because I haven't read for fun in so long as we did in our introductory episode. It's been a long time since I've read for fun. So that could be something that
Right.
I just missed, which I will admit to. But I do enjoy the magic system in
Mm-hmm.
that it's not an actual, it's a magic system, but it's different. It's not, Wingardium
Mm-hmm.
Leviosa and all that stuff. Like
All right,
it's
not too much on
like
Harry Potter now.
it's it's like it seems more like the magic system is more of who they are as people, and it's not something that they
Mm,
actually have to learn. It's like ingrained in who they
yes.
are, and they do have to learn how to control
Yes.
it, but it's almost an
Yeah.
extension of their personalities. And it's
Yes.
not like them
That's
learning spells and cracking open a book and practicing. I mean, you have to practice to control your power, but this power is tied to who you are as an individual.
mm-hmm.
And I like
Yeah.
that.
I love that. And as we get deeper into it, I think this is, like you said, and why I wanted you to talk about it, but a very, very interesting form of magic because it's not just, like you said, picking up a wand and learning different spells. It's who you are on the inside, which if Harry Potter was using these types of signets, that would be really terrifying if Voldemort was able to have like a signet based off of the evil that's inside him and lurking. Like it makes you think like it really makes you think like what would your signet be like. Dane reads recent memories because he has to know everything. He needs to know everything. He needs to be in control. And her mother having the power of storms, which reminds me of just like just energy, just having a massive amount of energy to control
Her
things, to control.
she has a powerful presence, and another thing that has a
Yeah.
powerful presence is a terrifying storm. The ability to control a
Yes.
storm and control the weather at will is very powerful.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So I'm excited to get into signets and like more and more as we learn other people's signets and Zayden's and everyone else's. But I do love this form of magic, and it's really exciting to think about like what my own personal signet would be. I'm a person who likes to be in control of everything. When I'm out of control, I'm not my best self, and I'm also very prideful. So I'm not sure what that
She's
signet
a
would
Leo.
manifest to. I am a Leo, if you didn't know. I'm a Leo. But being in control makes me think of like what I like what I would want to know. I probably would be an intrinsic or a mind reader because I need to know everything, which we learn later will get me killed. So Anyways, the chapter 4 ends with a tender moment. I think Dane like touches her face like he always does. And then over the balcony, Xaden, I know, over the balcony, Xaden is looking and he makes like a comment like, I knew you guys were close, but I didn't know y'all were that close. Y'all don't need to make it this obvious. Like, screaming in front of everyone, and Dane tells Violet to run, and that's how the chapter ends. Our villain is looking at Violet and sizing her up, and he's technically in control of both of them, so there's not really much room for them to go anywhere. So yeah, that is chapter 4. We talked about Signet, so I think that if you're ready, we can move on to chapter 5.
I am. I already have it pulled up because I'm prepared.
Yeah, look at you getting better.
Okay, the blurb for chapter 5 is: knowing I am in direct disagreement with General Melgren's orders, I am officially objecting to the plans set forth in today's briefing. It is not this general's opinion that the children of the rebellion's leaders should be forced to witness their parents' execution. No child should watch their parent put to death. The Tyrus Rebellion, an official brief for King Tari by General Lilith Sorengale. You know, I think I skipped reading that one because I.
Oh my god, this is why I've read the series a couple times. So, not another bitch moment for Lilith, but I think that that's huge.
That's
Um
huge.
that's a
So
huge part
basically, she was
of
just
her
essentially
character.
following orders.
Yes. And I think that's important for everyone to note
It wasn't. It
that
wasn't personal. She was following orders.
she was following orders. And remember, the children of the rebellion hate her mother because they had to watch them all be executed at essentially by her hand or Melgren's dragon, and they hate Violet because of her last name. So this is just starting the chapter to let you know that the hatred that these children are about to show for Violet is based off of a lie and perception. Like, Lilith did not want to do this, and she put it in writing that this was not against what she wanted to do, but she
Mm-hmm.
had to, and she did. Doesn't redeem who she is, but it definitely gives a moment of pause, and things that people just don't know. So chapter 5 is a meaty little chapter, but we start off with one of their classes when we were going to class, and they start off going to battle brief with Professor De Vera, which is one of my favorite professors. She's described as having ebony skin, which I see her as a strong Black woman. Throw in Viola Davis in here, and I'm perfect for. I think it's a perfect role. Um, and so Battle Beef is a class where they discuss the politics and policies and strategies of their enemies in recent battles. This class has Professor De Vera and also Professor Markham, who is the head scribe of Basgaith Worth College. So he walks in and he is shocked to see Violet sitting there and disappointed because that was his star pupil to take over, being the head of the scribe quadrant. He doesn't say anything, but he does show a little bit of emotion. And remember, scribes are not supposed to show any emotion at all. Question for you: what do you think is going through Markham's head in this moment? Do you think he knew ahead of time that she wasn't going to be
I
there?
think. I think he knew ahead of time, but I think actually seeing her there was like kind of, oh, this is really happening.
Uh huh. Do you think he's worried for
Because
her?
I think he is worried for her because I feel like everybody around Violet except her mother underestimates her
Yeah.
because of her disability and her condition.
Yeah.
And I feel that everybody around her sees her as this fragile little thing that's easily broken and that must be protected at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't
Mm-hmm.
see her potential, not just in her intellect, but also in her will and in her body that does betray her often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So in this class, they start discussing one of the battles, which is near a village of, and I'm going to butcher this name, so I do apologize, village of Chakir, by griffins. So griffins are the essential like enemy of, if you will,
Is it
of
is it Griffins or Gryphons?
girl. I don't know. Griffins, griffins.
I think it's Gryphons.
Does Gryphons? That sounds so weird.
It does
Gryphons.
sound weird.
Griffins.
Griffins? Maybe it is
We'll
Griffins.
say it your way.
It's just
Because
no,
you were
don't say it
right
my way.
about
But it's spelled really funky.
it is spelled very funky. Um, so Griffins, I guess we'll say it my way this time, are like the mortal enemy of Navarians. So the Navarians have dragon riders, and the provinces that are around the wards have Griffin riders or flyers. So we learned that the wards are faltering for the first time. So imagine Game of Thrones, The Wall, but it's invisible, and the wall is being breached in certain areas and it's faltering at certain points of time. The Griffin riders are taking advantage of this. So they learned that they're faltering. This is not the first time that it's happening. So Violet is cluing in all this information, but she's kind of afraid to say something or just like be the know-it-all. She's really trying to stay under the radar.
Mm-hmm.
And she tells Ree to ask, what's the altitude of the village? And Reed's like, what? She's like, just ask it. And so they learned that the village is too high of an altitude for griffins to normally fly into, so it's not something that should normally be on their radar. And Professor De Vera immediately says, Miss Sorengale, you need to speak, or Cadet Sorengale, you need to speak freely. And so she basically, Violet summarizes that the Griffin riders knew that the wards were going to falter, that the time it takes from them to get to the village that they were at to this border city was entirely too close in time, and she's very suspicious of the fact that and she believes that they knew that the wards were faltering, which actually was right. And Xaden notes that they were looking for something, that no one was hurt, people weren't injured, they were specifically there to look for something. So that's our first battle brief class. Ree is in awe of Violet because she's just really good in history and battle brief. And Violet's like, yeah, that's great, but the class I'm worried about is the one we're going to next, which is sparring. And so they very cutely make a deal that they're going to help each other out, and Violet will help her with the academics, and Ree said she's going to help her with sparring. So they head to the sparring gym. It's chaos in there, and of course, Jack fucking
Fucking
Barlow
Barlow.
kills his attendant on the mat by snapping his fucking neck, um, which is just shocking to everyone, but not unheard of. The only place that you can really do harm to someone, you're supposed to take things out, is on the mat and at the sparring gym. So, yes, you can kill someone without really getting reprimanded for
Consequence.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no consequences. Um, what do you think about that rule?
I
Does it, does it,
feel like it fits the air of the college
mm,
because it's like do or die basically.
yeah,
And while they like to say that, oh, we don't really encourage our cadets to go around murdering each other, but
mm-hmm,
we soon find that that rule isn't really a rule.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
later on in the book
mm-hmm,
we see that, like, oh, well, I guess it's a free for all as long as you don't
yeah,
get caught.
exactly. You can kill or be killed,
Yeah, very
essentially,
much kill or be killed. It's very much battle royale.
yeah, yeah. So I think that killing sets the tone. You step on that mat and you very much can die.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Ree excels in her first match against Tainan, and we'll learn more about him as we go through. And then Emetrio, however you want to say his name, is the teacher, or like I think of him as like a coach, like Coach
Yeah.
Immaterial, like the gym
Yeah.
coach.
The gym coach
And he tells Violet that
with the
she's
windbreaker
next, and
pants
yeah, with the windbreaker pants, yeah, yeah, with the clipboard,
and the filas.
yes, and the filas, yes, yes, yes. That's exactly how I picture him. That's so funny. Um, and he tells Violet that she's going up against her. He points to someone named Imogen, and they have pink hair, and there's a rebellion relic on her wrist. Um, Imogen immediately tells Violet that her mother, Lilith, murdered her family and just attacks her. Violet tries her best to withstand Imogen, but she's just much better and much faster. Imogen immediately tries to stab Violet, but thanks to her sister's the vest that her sister gave her, the dragon scale vest, it blocks the knife. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and she starts to use some sort of powers that people are yelling at Imogen. Like she's using her powers, but she's like moving very fast, like quicker than Violet can even see her. She's on her, and and she tries to force Violet to yield after she has her shoulder in a lock, and she refuses because she doesn't want to seem weak on the very first day in the very first sparring match. But Imogen just snaps her
Her
arm
shoulder
and her
like a
shoulder.
twig.
Yep, her arm breaks and her shoulder completely dislodges and dislocates, and she blacks out. And that is the end of the chapter. Um, so, what do you think about Imogen Cardulo in general, and just what are her motivations now that we have that blurb at the top of the chapter, which we know what really happened with Lilith? What do you think she's thinking in this moment? Like, is
I
it
think
purely just revenge? Did you think she stepped on that mat to kill Violet?
I think she stepped on that mat to kill Violet
Yeah,
because because not only did she have to watch her parents die, but she had to watch everyone else's. And then
yeah.
not only that, all of the children were punished for their parents' transgressions and then thrown into this war college essentially to die.
Because all of them are being punished and they're essentially doing the exact same thing. Imogen is doing the exact same thing, punishing Violet for what her mother did. And Violet is punishing, I mean, and the Navarians are punishing the children for what their parents did. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very interesting parallel, and I can imagine myself in this position if I were to witness my parents being executed by someone, and I don't know anything about them. The rage and uh, day one, how I feel about them would be hate, and if I were to get them on a mat, I don't know if I would kill them, but I hope that I would have some sort of restraint, at least that I don't want to be like what they did to me. I don't want to be like that. But I
I
also
would kill
didn't have
them.
my parents executed in front of me. And the Pisces strikes again. um, I I would like to think that, but I it's hard for me to empathize because it's just so far removed from my situation. So I can understand. I can understand just going in there and just be like, you know what? I'm gonna take something away from that fucking
Yeah,
bitch, and I'm
revenge,
gonna kill her
bitch,
fucking daughter.
basically, would be
Yep,
the
I'm gonna
revenge.
kill her fucking daughter. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and that being enough for me. This is the only place I can do that. We just saw somebody get their neck snapped. Let me kill her.
Mm-hmm. Free
I want
game.
her to be in pain. Yep. I want her to feel what I have felt for the past 6 years after she murdered my parents. Um, okay, so the next little key topic I'm going to talk about was battle brief. Um, what do you think? I think it's really interesting this class that they have. This is like kind of political, what's going on in the world, real world situations class, but it's kind of filtered to what the teachers want them to teach.
It's
And
a
I think that's an
propaganda
interesting.
class.
Yeah, yeah. They
I
are
mean,
teaching them from a very young age.
that and they're trying they're what they're doing is they are giving them the illusion of involvement by making them
Mm,
feel that by telling them about these recent events that have happened, these attacks and everything, they'll feel like they're being involved, but really most of it's redacted and some of it could be a lie, but no one's really going to question that because everyone wants to fit in, everyone wants to belong. And
yeah.
so the school manipulates that quality that most people have in order to, and
Point and like spot on for what I was thinking. If you continue to tell people for 3 years when they get into a war college, this is your enemy, this is your enemy, this is your enemy, these are the bad guys, these are the bad guys. And when you get out there, you kill them because look at what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
What else are you going to think? You're not out on the front lines. All you're learning is
And
villages are being attacked, people are dying.
yeah, innocent
Go ahead.
people are dying. And I
Yeah.
thought it was
Yeah.
interesting that Zayden brought up, well, they were looking for something. He's
Mm-hmm.
trying to
Mm-hmm.
humanize them this early in the book.
Yeah.
He's trying
Yeah.
to humanize the enemy. Like,
That's
they
a
didn't
really great
attack
point.
anyone, they didn't kill anyone, they were looking for something. What were they looking for?
Mm-hmm.
What do we
Mm-hmm.
have that they want or need?
Yeah. 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 It definitely makes you think. And I think classes like that are so dangerous when you're teaching them to, these aren't children, they're adults or over 20 years old. But when you're teaching them to any young
Their
person,
frontal cortex is still aren't fully developed anyway.
there we go, student or teacher. Um,
Frontal.
yeah, exactly. Like they aren't fully developed. So whatever you're being taught, especially in a place that's just so brutal, what the fuck did I get through 3 years of killing if I'm not going to go out there and kill my enemy? I'm here to protect my family. I'm here to protect these border villages who can't, and I'm going to do everything I can to do that.
It's
So,
basically diet fascism.
diet fascism. I like that. I like that. We should get that on a bookmark. Battle brief equals diet fascism. But cool. That is the wrap up of chapters 1 through 5. So I think now we can go into our final, just like review thoughts, our final, I call them episode wrap up questions of the week. So we have 3 things we're going to go through. We're going to go through our character of the week, our line of the week, and our moment of the week. So, Geneva, I'd like you to go first with who your character of the week is.
So my character of the week is Jack fucking Barlow, and I have my and I have my reasons.
Traitor!
Um, I know, but
You're a traitor to the realm.
I'm a traitor to the realm. I love a good villain. I love
Mm,
a villain that is painted as such from the beginning. I love someone that I can hate and not
mm-hmm,
have like this weird gray area. Like, am I really supposed to hate them? Are they really that bad? Like, no. Jack fucking Barlow is someone you are allowed to hate wholeheartedly. He is a dick.
yes.
He's an asshole. He is a murderer.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
he preys on the weak. And
Yeah.
that's pretty much enough to get most people riled up to dislike someone or a character. And knowing that he's picking on Violet, he's not a child of the rebellion. And
Mm-hmm.
he's solely picking on Violet because he perceives her as weak and as a threat to their wing or to the school in general,
Mm-hmm.
and that she must be extinguished. And so
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love when authors create characters that it's okay to hate.
Yes. Yes. Jack represents, and we don't know enough about his backstory, but he just represents everything. Like just a dick. Like he just gives like racist energy. He just gives like, I don't know if he gives privilege, but some of the things he was saying in Battle Brief, like, oh, like just like the way he talks about things, and just like as we get further of hearing him in class, like, oh, I'm gonna be this, I'm gonna be a wing leader, I'm gonna have the biggest dragon. Like he just gives
He gives
privilege. He
mediocre
just
white man
gives
with a master that didn't earn it properly.
Yes. Yes. That is exactly what he gives. So good character of the week.
It's a
At first
legacy
I was a little
admission.
judgy. Yeah. Yeah, he gives legacy fucking admission. Gosh, yes. Um but yes, good character of the week. I was a little judgy at first, but I don't hate
I
it.
have my reasons.
Um My character of the week is Rhiannon or Ree. Um, we went through the first 5 chapters, and I just love friendship, and I love like being a girl's girl, or just having someone to just have your back in general. It doesn't even have to be like a girl's girl, but just someone who has your back. And immediately Violet has had Reese back and Reese had Violet's back. She was suspicious of Dane from the moment he walked up. Like, she waited for Violet to say, it's okay. Like, he's a friend. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she has her back.
She's a
And
down ass
you just
bitch.
kind yeah, she really is. And I just love that. Like, I love friendship. Like, friendship, I cherish my friendship so much, especially the people that I met when I was really young, like who knew me when I was like a child. And I remember how I met them and like that first like interaction of hi, how are you? What's your name? Like, those little things. Like, I love that, and I love friendship, and I love how their relationship kind of blossoms over the next couple books. And I just love that Ree's like black and she wears braids, and like I see myself in her. And it's just nice when you can see yourself in a character, especially like a
Mm-hmm.
literature book. We don't really get to see too many characters with braids. Harry Potter had Angelina Johnson, and she had braids in her hair, and I remember thinking like, oh, that's so cool, like braids, like. So I do cherish those characters when we get to have just some sort of like representation of being like strong and cool and a friend, and also having flaws, and not just being the sidekick to the main white character.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to line of the week. So this is just going to be your favorite like phrase from what someone said in the book. So Seester.
My line of the week is by Mira. It was when she was basically trying to prep Violet for conscription day when they were alone,
Mm,
and she was going through her bag and everything like that. So the line that I chose was, because that's all you'll ever be, another tombstone, another name scorched in stone, ditch the books.
mm,
And I like this line because I feel like there's a hint of foreshadowing in it. Whereas she's being told to leave the books, but as we know, she keeps one book that's the book of fairy tales that her father gave her. And I
mhm.
think that not only foreshadows Violet's knowledge and just intelligence, but it also foreshadows what's to come in the book and why that particular book is so important.
It's a great line. Good job, sister.
Thank you.
I like it. My line is not as complex. It speaks to who I am at heart. My line is, "Please let me save you," by Dane Atos on page 37. I picked this line because I just like romance. And when I first read this, I just thought it was like, I thought it was really sweet. And I was like, oh, like he just wants to save her and he like loves her. But more importantly, what I liked about it was the line right after that where Violet says, "You can't save me." And I just love this interaction. I think it's Violet stepping to herself of like people always trying to protect her. And here she has this guy who she has feelings for, telling her the things that you want to hear as a 20-year-old, like, let me save you, let me help you. And it's like, no, you can't save me. All I can do is survive and save myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I really love that. And I really love this interaction. And I think it really, this "please let me save you" is to the core of what we're going to see from Dane throughout the books, or throughout
Mm-hmm.
this book. Um, So that is our line of the week. And our last weekly wrap up is our moment of the week, favorite moment of these 5 chapters. So, Sister, what is your favorite moment of the week?
Just the interaction with Mira in general and just the big
Mm,
sister tough love thing. I really enjoyed that. She was quick, she was short, she was sweet, she was to the point, but she also took time to let Violet know that she loves her and that she
hmm.
believes in her. And,
Yeah.
she went out of her way to make things to protect Violet, but also to encourage her. So there was a good
Yeah.
balance there. It wasn't so much so like you're going to fail, but I'm going to give you this anyway. It was more so like, I don't want you to
Yeah.
fail. Here's what you need to succeed. These are the rules. This is what you need to do. This is what you don't need to do. Like she was doing her best as a big sister to prepare her for this journey that she's going to be on for the next 3 years. And I just thought that was great.
Unfortunately, I have to bite off of you because that is also my moment of the week. As a little sister, I have a big sister, and you, surprise. And I love sister moments like in books. And I love like a lot of the times we see sisters, like you think of Cinderella and all these things where they're like rivals against each other and they don't really like each other and they don't stick up for each other and they don't really care. They're just like, oh, my annoying little sister or my annoying little brother. But that's never really been the case with my siblings. And I just love that Mira really looks out for Violet, and it spoke personally to me and everything. I mean, I don't need to repeat everything that you said, but everything that you said, like it's just a really beautiful moment to start the series. And we just get a true core relationship of love. And I like that. Okay, so that is our episode 2 of Realm Talk. Next week, we are going to cover chapters 6 through 10 of Fourth Wing. So be sure to subscribe, like, comment. You can follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Thank you for joining us this week as we dive into the fantasy realms of Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I'm Aaliyah.
I'm Geneva. And thanks for joining us. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.